You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 3, episode 28, Cubs Crush Rockies. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast, follow on the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, Fly the W on Facebook, email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. All right, Crawly, we are in the midst of Cubs and Rockies. We know at the time of this recording that the Cubs are going to win this series against the Rockies, but let's rewind a little bit for those that didn't catch all your antics during opening day. Let's relive Crawly's opening day since the last time you and I podcasted, which was on Sunday, and I believe you told me that you were headed right back downtown.
Yep. So right back to Wrigley. And so it was an absolute blast. This was opening day number 24 for me, including 2020. And it was a blast as always, man. We had just a great time. We were over at Murphy's. I know WGN was there. I talked to John Vincent for a little bit. John did a great job with the national anthem. So he hit that out of the park. We ran into Ryan Dempster. We ran into a lot of, that's just opening days. Like you just walk down the street and you run into people. We covered Bernie's, Murphy's, Output, Yaxie's. We literally hit it all. It was absolutely amazing. And the park looked great. The field looked great. But I got to tell you, Dustin, nothing got me more emotional than seeing Ryne Sandberg throw out the first pitch.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Glad he was back out there. A lot of old timers, I guess. It's kind of odd calling Ryne Sandberg an old timer now, but that's what he is, right? Quite a few of the old timers at the park, and good to see everybody.
Yeah, you got Billy was there. You had Billy and Fergie obviously are the oldest, and then you got that next generation of the 80s, which is our generation, which would have been Sutcliffe and Lee Smith and Andre Dawson and all those guys. So in general, it's to see Sandberg out there, and they did a really nice kind of like little video tribute, and he came out and he threw the ball. He was there with his family. It was really cool. And then what they've been doing, and it's not a fun part of it, but they do have a moment of silence for people that we lost over the year.
Yeah, I saw that. I caught on to that as I was tuned into Marquee.
Yeah, and so you got to see Tom Otis Hellman and Rocco and a bunch of people that sadly are no longer with us that passed during the off season. So something they've been doing the last few years. And so, it's always a day with a lot of emotions. You're just so excited to be down there. Now, I went to the blue carpet event, and it didn't do much for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was.
Well, that was a new event this year, right?
Right. And so the players would come out of their parking lot, but like it was, I thought that they would have fans lined up all the way across the street. I thought they'd close Waveland or do something, but all it really was no different than when the players come out and you see them anyway, coming through the players parking lot. It's just like that, but they had a blue carpet and they had music. I think it was more of a made for marquee type thing.
Right. Now, do you think it had anything to do with the not so fantastic weather as to why it ended up being the way it was? Do you think if the weather had been different, it might have had a different kind of feel?
No, I mean, a lot of it was like security was all around there. You know what I mean? So it's not like you get like, so they have the kids corral, which is right over, right by the players parking lot where youngsters can go and get autographs, which is fine. Where we were but then everyone else, they kind of made stand back behind like the flower pots that they use kind of as like security. As like kind of barriers. So we had to go back there. And so like, as players were coming out,
that's where I would make you stand if I was security.
Hey, I have no problem standing there, but it was like, they were like, because usually when they come in, you can take pictures of the players come in, stuff like that. But this time, like they had like the videographers and the TV and the photographers there, and it was kind of like blocking the way. So I was there for maybe like 10 minutes. And then I just figured I'd go get some beer.
Yeah, well, it's always a good opening day. Is always a good day to get a beer.
Yeah, and
I had a beer as well. I even had a beer on opening day.
Hey, you know what? It was a fun opening day. I will tell you that, Dustin, because Shota Imanaga made his MLB debut, and ladies and gentlemen, he did not disappoint.
No, he did not.
Dominant, Dustin, and taking a no-hitter into the 6th inning before Charlie Blackmon, who just never seems to go away,
Charlie Blackmon.
Seriously, this guy's like 90 and he's still getting hits off the Cubs.
Right.
He got a hit with 2 outs, and I know Counsell would have loved to get Shota to get Blackmon out, right? I'm sure he was happy that he was having such a good game, but I think he was happy that the no-hitter was broken up because Shota threw 92 pitches, which was probably a little bit more than Craig was comfortable with, but with all the short starts lately, I think it helped.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't the plan, but again, how could you take him out at any point after that, right? You just couldn't. There's no way. You had to see it through.
Well, Shota struck out 9 batters. The last one after the Rockies got 2 hits in the 6th with 2 outs. And Shota was pumped up coming off the mound. He celebrated like Justin Steele. I guess he yelled, "Let's go." So the line on Shota was 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 9 Ks, Dustin.
9 times. Yep. Yeah, he looked really great. There was a little bit of pushback that, well, the weather, well, the Rockies, well, nobody's seen him before. I'm like, no, like, let's enjoy this thing, okay? Let's not throw a wet blanket on this. That was a really good outing, really happy for him, and I'm going to enjoy this. I'm not playing, well, the wind was blowing in, well, it's the Rockies, well, wait till they see him a second time, well, this, well, that, well, this, well, that. No, nope. No.
All I saw was, it was a great start. And sometimes I've been to these games where the wind's blowing in and there's a couple balls that you're like, oh man, that would have been gone on a normal day. I didn't feel like they hit them really well. I didn't think that they picked up the pitches. I thought it was, it's the Rockies. Yes, I know that. But like you said, they're major league players. They get paid.
They get paid too. John Fox famously said it. They get paid too.
So if it would have gone the wrong way, if he would have gotten tattooed, then would you have been making excuses for that? I mean, he did what he had to do, which was win the game, which was awesome. And Dakota Hudson actually was the tough luck loser. After giving up a single and a walk in the first, he settled down and only gave up 1 walk from the 2nd through the 5th inning. So both pitchers looked really good. Unfortunately for Dakota, his team's defense let him down. With runners at 1st and 2nd, Christopher Morel hit a scorching single to left. Now, Nolan Jones, the left fielder for Colorado, he has like one of the best arms in baseball. So he's charging the ball and he's going to throw it home. And this ball gets under his glove and rolls all the way to the wall. Like I'm talking, Dustin, like 60, 70 feet.
Right.
Both runners score. Morel gets held up by Willie Harris at 3rd, but then the throw from Jones is bobbled and kicked around. Morel ran home and scored. Classic little league home run. And just like that, the Cubs were up 3-0.
Just like that, just as Pat would say it, and just like that.
I just love it's just again reminds me so much of Javi Baez, where just the Morel's energy and whatever his vibe, just weird things like that happen. And I mean, when that ball got past Jones, I was just like, oh, look out. Like, you knew that it was off to the races. So the Cubs added some insurance runs in the bottom of the 7th when they had runners at 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. Sayed drew a walk to load the bases, and then Cody Bellinger hit a single to score 2 more runs and make it 5-0. Yency Almonte pitched 1 inning of scoreless ball, and Drew Smiley pitched 2 innings, and the Cubs win game 1, 5-0. Now, some interesting stats about Shota's debut, Dustin. Taking a no-hitter through 5.2 innings, Shota tied for the longest no-hit bid in his debut by a Cubs pitcher. Amari Telemaco, May 16th, 1996 versus Houston. If anyone remembers that one. He became the 2nd pitcher in Major League history since at least 1901 to toss at least 6 scoreless innings with no walks and 9+ strikeouts in their Major League debut. Nick Kingham, April 29, 2018. And he became the first Cubs pitcher with at least 6 scoreless innings and 9 strikeouts in his Major League debut since 1901. So just a great outing, like we were saying.
Absolutely impressive. Really, really enjoyed it. Tip of the cap to Shota, picking Chelsea Dagger for his introduction music. The guy just gets it. The guy absolutely gets it, and he is going to be a Cub favorite really, really quick.
And Dustin, we talked about adjustments that players have to make coming over from Japan, not just in baseball, but just socially. But it seems like I heard that he will not use a translator unless it's absolutely necessary. He's talking with all his teammates as much as he can. I think his personality just kind of, like I said, just to see him fired up when he got that last strikeout, number 9. You mentioned Chelsea Dagger, the wearing of number 18 for Ben Zobrist. Like you said, right. He just gets
another good point. Yeah, he gets it. He gets it. And that's what you got to love. They're out there, they're having fun. He gets it. And again, I could become a big Shota Imanaga fan awfully quick.
Now, game 2 is Javier Assad versus Kyle Freeland. Dustin, do you remember those Southwest airline commercials, Want to Get Away?
Yeah, want to get away. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Kyle Freeland was probably feeling that. For the first game of the season that Kyle Freeland threw against Arizona, he went 2.1 innings and gave up 10 runs. In his second start against the Cubs, he only lasted 3.1 innings and gave up 7 runs to the Cubs on 9 hits. Dustin, he gave up 7 runs and his ERA went down. What does that tell you about how this guy's season started?
Yeah, pretty crazy, right? I mean, again, another guy, met the moment last night. Really cool.
It started in the first inning with Nico Horner, who'd been batting lower in the order this season. We were watching him. He's been, struggling a little bit, but he drew a walk. And then Seiya Suzuki hit a blast to center field that had an exit velocity, Dustin, of 115 miles per hour. You were kind of wondering.
Yeah, I didn't think that was getting, the way where it was going at first. I didn't see that getting out based on the wind.
And not only that, the launch angle, it was just a really low trajectory, and that thing just kept going right into the basket of center field.
A towering line drive, is once famously said on 670 The Score.
Now, that is the hardest hit home run of the early season, but only Kyle Schwarber and Wilson Contreras have homers with higher exit velos in a Cub uniform.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's good. That's good info right there.
Now, in the second, Garrett Cooper, who got the start, tripled and scored on a Nick Magical single to make it 3-0. Christopher Morel hit a solo home run in the third to make it 4-0. And then with runners at first and second, Nick Magical hit a ball to kind of shallow center, and similar to the play of the day before, Brenton Doyle dove. And you know what they say, if you're going to dive, and Coom Dog says it all the time, make sure you stop the ball at least. He dove, he whiffed, it goes behind him, 2 runners score, 6-0. I don't know what was going on with the Rockies outfielders. I mean, Brenton Doyle is a Gold Glover. Nolan Jones, one of the best arms in baseball. I don't know, it was the weather, the field conditions, but they just looked awful. They dropped another pop fly. It was awful.
They looked awful. Just an embarrassment. I mean, boy, too bad you can't play them 20 times this season.
Right? Now, Ian Happ added an RBI single in the fourth to make it 7-0. Cubs didn't score a run in the fifth, which was surprising, but with 2 on in the sixth, Garrett Cooper hit a 3-run blast, and the Cubs lead 10-0. But the Cubs were not done scoring in a classic Wrigley moment. In the bottom of the seventh, they're up 10-2, and God bless the Cub fans if they're just not the greatest in the world. It's cold, real field like 29, it's raining, it's windy, they're up, the game is essentially over, and the Cub fans start cheering, Cody, Cody, and Bellinger hits a 2-run blast right off that right field video board. I mean, honestly, are there any better fans in baseball?
No. I mean, I can't believe that many people were still out there at that point. That was absolutely really, really impressive. Those are absolutely great fans, and that's what makes free agent players want to come to a place like Wrigley Field.
I agree. And Javier Assad made his first start of the season and pitched a quality start. He went 6 innings, gave up no runs, 4 hits, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. So after using the bullpen a lot in the Texas series, it was really nice to see back-to-back quality outings by Imanaga and Assad. I think that was really needed. Jose Cuas pitched 2 innings. He gave up 2 home runs, and Luke Little pitched a scoreless 9th. But, when you look at that game on Tuesday, and it was just a fun game, 2 guys I really, really want to highlight here. Number 1 is Nick Magical. He went 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Now, granted, Doyle missed that ball, and that accounts for 2 of them. He also made a fantastic play at third base to rob Chris Bryant of extra bases. I feel like I've been pretty hard on Nick Magical, and I, the guy's doing the best he can, and I thought it was a really good game. The other one, and Dustin, I really need your opinion on this one. Garrett Cooper was 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. He hit a triple, a home run, and a double. He was just a single shy of the cycle. That would be the first cycle since Mark Grace did it in the 90s. But the question is what are they going to do when Patrick Wisdom is ready to come back from the IL? Cooper has shown a lot of power during spring training. He was an all-star, Dustin, in 2022, and he crushes left-handed pitching. He can DH, he can play first and the corner outfield spot. Now, Wisdom also crushes lefty, can DH, play the first, the corner spots, and third base. But I don't know if there's room for both of them on this team when Patrick Wisdom is ready to come off the IL.
Well, that's a good problem for the Cubs to have, I suppose. At this moment, I want Garrett Cooper in the game when there is a left-handed pitcher. That I know for sure. And I got another one for you. I'm done. I'm done. I am done with the playing around at third base. Okay, give the job to Nicky Madrigal. It's his job. If you wanna sprinkle in every once in a while, go ahead. Go ahead. But he should be the third baseman. Obviously, the DH third baseman, Christopher Morel can still hit a home run as a DH. So I don't want to hear, oh, he's too young to be a DH, yada, yada, yada. Again, they can't mess around and potentially lose a game because of his defense. Now, that doesn't mean you should take him out of the lineup because his bat has been fantastic. But right now, you need solid defense. So leave Nick Madrigal in unless it's an obvious pitching situation that doesn't set up well for him, and let him play third base and let Christopher Morel DH. And who knows, Crawly, you might have a day when you got, going back to your last question, you got Garrett Cooper playing first base, and you've got Patrick Wisdom playing third base, and you've got whoever at that point DHing based on pitching matchups, Christopher Morel or whoever.
Well, you guys got to talk to Tommy Hotovy today, and I still have to go back to the Odyssey app and give that a listen. Did he kind of talk a little bit about whether, because I think you mentioned before that Tommy mentioned that when Justin Steele starts, because of the amount of ground balls that go to the left side, that Madrigal would probably do more of those starts. Was that brought up?
No? Not exactly, but we did bring up is, do the pitchers ever worry about the defense behind him? And he said basically, not exactly. There are mistakes made by Major League Baseball players every day, and you have to bounce back from them. But, they do know when there's like shoddy defense behind them, but they can't, they're professionals and they can't let it affect them, is basically the gist of what he said.
Now, when I think about it, though, the issue with the DH, and this is a Craig Counsell thing. Right now, he is rotating guys in the DH. In game 1, it was Morel. Game 2, it was Cooper. Game 3, Happ. Game 4, Suzuki. Game 5, Morel. And game 6, Bellinger. So just from, what I remember of Craig Counsell in the past, I think a lot of coaches want to use that DH not to do like a David Ortiz, Big Papi, sit a guy and let him just crank balls there. I think ideally he would want to rotate through that. And so I guess that would be my, if Tommy Hotovy, next time he comes on, I'd be curious, is that okay? Do you kind of look at the third baseman and say, okay, you remember Marcus Stroman, big ground ball pitcher. If you got a ground ball pitcher and there's going to be a lot of balls there, is that when Nick Madrigal would get a start, say, over maybe someone who's more inclined to throw maybe like a strikeout pitcher or fly ball pitcher?
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, all that stuff makes sense. And we can try to be a little bit more direct, if you will, the next time he's around 2 weeks, I guess, from today.
All right. Now, Dustin, we do have game 3 today. There is a window tonight. How surprised were you to see Luke Little's name as the starter tonight?
Well, I read a thing on X or Twitter. I still like to say Twitter. But if Luke Little does in fact start, this will be the first time since 1955 that the Cubs pitcher to finish a game the one day and then start the game the next day has happened since 1955.
It is very unusual. And here's the thing that I'm thinking in my head, and that is with all the, with the Steele injury and the short start by Hendricks, and Jordan Wicks didn't go really long either. I'm thinking that there's going to be some Iowa shuffling going on. I think they're going to rotate some guys in and out this weekend for the Dodgers series.
Like you have a couple, you have a name, you got an idea in your head.
Anybody with an option, man. I would say Luke Little is definitely someone that can go down. Jose Cuas is someone that can go down. I just feel like guys that have options, and that's why they didn't keep Carl Edwards, because he doesn't have options. So he would have to go through the whole waiver wire process. So I just think that the guys that have the options are going to be used a lot. I think there's going to be a big old shuttle going from Chicago to Iowa, not in a negative way, but I think there's going to be probably like 2 or 3 guys down in Iowa that are just going to be constantly rotated. Whether you talk about Hayden Wesniewski, I don't know if Cam Sanders, if they feel that he's ready yet, as far as making sure the walks are down, or who knows. But I really truly feel that, and I wonder about tonight if Ben Brown, again, if they're just going with the opener strategy with Luke Little.
Well, it sounds like Ben Brown's going to pitch tonight if they get this game in, and it almost sounded like Ben Brown would follow Luke Little.
Right.
That's
and
what
so
Tommy Hotovy alluded to. Yes.
How many innings would that be? And then again, would Ben Brown go down along with Luke Little?
You are listening to episode 28 of season number 3 of the Fly the W670 podcast. The Cubs crush the Rockies. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Back on opening day, Crane Kenney called into the Mully Haugh Show. Very candid about the state of the team, the finances in baseball, and the issues of gambling in baseball. We thought we'd share some of the highlights from you in this interview. Crawly and I are going to go through a couple of the clips.
Yeah, when I got back to work on Tuesday, which I hadn't worked in a while, I had some free time, and I decided to kind of go on the Odyssey app and listen to the interview. And I don't know, Dustin, man, I don't know what it was, but the guys were firing. The questions were right there. Crane was pretty honest about things, or at least very open. And I thought it was just a phenomenal interview. And I would encourage all our listeners to go back and listen to it. There were some nuggets in there that I wasn't aware of, and really good stuff here. The first one was he was talking about optimism for the season. And I think, I can tell you, I sell like games I'm not going to go to. I pick out which games I'm going to go to. I still go to other ones besides that, but like just from my tickets, they sold very quickly this year. I know that opening day was pretty packed, considering how bad the weather was. So I think there is a lot of optimism. And here's what Crane said about the optimism.
I think everyone does. I get some feedback from friends and family and fans that I see on the street. I think everyone's got a sense of optimism. I think it started with Craig Counsell coming on board. He's clearly one of the best managers in baseball. We had a deal with him from the other side of the line, all these years. And, he just seemed to find a way. Oftentimes I'd look at the Brewer lineup. I'd say that's not as good a team as we have. And darn it, if they didn't beat us more often than not. And the guy on the top step had a lot to do with it. So really fortunate to have Craig join us. I think today, I guess, will be really interesting with Imanaga going. I think a really interesting story there. I think Michael Busch is a really interesting story. I think about a player like Bush. If he had come up through our system and obviously hit at every rung on the ladder and was player of the year last year, if we'd been watching him through the Cubs system, we'd be far more excited about him playing first base for us than most fans are today. So I think there's a player to watch. It's going to be really interesting. Morel at third. I know you guys have been talking about that. Yesterday was sort of the perfect encapsulation of Morel, right? Big 3-run homer and
Yep.
A little hiccup there on a throw to first base. So you're going to get both parts of it. I think we went, going back to something you said earlier, like Craig's view of the game in the long lens that, almost admitting from the start, Morel's going to do both of those things. He's going to hit the 3-run homer and he's going to have a hiccup on the throw to first base. And that's okay. And that's how players grow. And that's how great players are born. I just love the fact that we're going to give all of our young players some leash to try and understand how good they can be and not react too quickly on pulling the plug. The same thing for the bullpen. I think you'll see him continue to run arms out there so we don't burn out in September. And as you pointed out, Mully, we missed the playoffs by 1 game, and the team that went in front of us was the Diamondbacks, and they got all the way to the final dance. So tons of optimism around here, and can't wait to get it started here.
A couple good points. I brought up that same situation when I wanted Craig Counsell to be the manager of the Cubs. I said, I just saw him do a lot with a lot less talent. I always felt that the Cubs had better teams than the Brewers, and somehow the Brewers would find a way to win or win the division. And the more and more I hear about Craig Counsell, the more I'm just interested, about his thought process. He's kind of he's not like Joe Madden, where he was like Joe Cool, with the sunglasses on the bench talking. To me, he doesn't seem as comfortable with the media and talking with the public, but when his brain just kind of works differently. And I think it's super interesting. I agree with, Michael Busch, if he was in the Cubs farm system, we would be more excited with him. And I still think Busch is going to have a really solid year. And again, I like the fact that I know you're going to get nervous about Christopher Morel at third base. I'm nervous about Morel at third base, but again, he kind of just has that steady calmness that, players aren't scared that they're going to go down to minors if they make a mistake.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. We'll go back to the Contreras and, I keep calling him Contreras, Christopher Morel at third base later on. The other thing, and you're hearing this kind of across the board, and this is part of why I believe Rossi is no longer here in Chicago with the Cubs. It's the willingness of playing the younger players. And you're hearing that kind of across the board, that's what they're looking to do. I know maybe that's not what the fans wanted because of the fact that means they didn't buy as many free agents as we all probably would have liked them to, but that's just part of the reason why they didn't, because they are clearly committed to playing the young guys. And, in the last segment, you talked about the bus trips back and forth from AAA or Tennessee up to the big leagues.
Yeah, they're going to keep guys fresh. And that's why, like I said, why they're going to use that DH spot. That's the guys with options. You're going to see like 6 guys kind of coming in and out of Iowa or AA or whatever. That's kind of my feeling, but he's really interesting in how he constructs lineups. And again, how he's using the DH and all this stuff, moving guys around. And he seems to push a lot of buttons. Crane was asked about what it was like working with Craig, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, it's been great. I was joking with him yesterday. If you remember his infamous line about getting a sunburn on a rainout when he was the skipper for the Brewers, I said, you're going to see the other side of that coin this week where we're battling weather and trying to get through it. He's got a great sense of humor, obviously really smart, incredibly focused on the game. We got some time in spring training to talk about things we could do a little better on the business side to help support those guys. And he had a list and some ideas, which was really great back and forth on, some of the things we can do from a facility perspective. We're building a world-class pitching and hitting lab out in Arizona. You'll see that go up this summer. And he had some very, very pointed thoughts about how that should be built to help support our players.
So a couple things in there. Number one, I was at that game where Craig Counsell was livid, where I never got a suntan during a rainout. That was the day they were giving out the final out bobblehead in 2017. And people were lined up, Dustin, for hours to get this thing. And right when they were about to open the gates, they told everyone it was canceled. And people were furious. And the second they canceled the game, the sun came out and was bright and gorgeous the rest of the day. But the weather here is crazy, but I was thinking about what was on Craig's list. What did he maybe tell Crane that he could do or needed? And then the other nuggets in there is that hitting and pitching facility in Arizona. What is that? Because I hadn't not heard anything about that. Is it going to be similar, say, to like Driveline or what's kind of the model for that? I'd be very curious.
Yeah, something we can have him back on. But he was very candid, very honest. Always appreciate Crane's time and honesty, and we'll hear a couple more clips.
Yes, on the media economy, and this became interesting because he did talk about the Marquee app, the direct-to-consumer app. You do have to be in market still. Blackout restrictions apply, but with people cutting the cord, more and more people are using apps, whether it's Disney or Hulu or whatever, but it has really upended the business model of baseball. And here's Craig kind of going through that.
We're fortunate here. Obviously, this is the flagship station. Mitch Rosen, the Score, Odyssey, the partnership for the Cubs with the Cubs is something we all benefit from. But you look around baseball, and the media economy is not healthy. It's not as good. The television product and the relationship between teams, and you see all over Bally's and the issues with RSNs. I just wonder, when you look at that, from a fan perspective, you may not think, oh, that's another TV station struggling or whatever. But it affects the baseball overall economy, and eventually it's going to affect the overall product because it's going to be an issue in the next CBA. There's less spending than ever, or not than ever, but it's drastic reduction this year from 2023. How will the atrophy in the media industry as it relates to baseball affect the game itself?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And as usual, you're on top of a big issue. And we talked about the D2C product, the new way for our fans to stream our games directly. That's both a blessing and a curse, right? The old days, everyone had cable. Going back to my 27-year-old son, like, he doesn't have cable, and he probably never will. So we have to reach those fans where they are. But what that means is that old business, the one that has driven our industry for 3 decades, has really changed, and it's not what it was. It's interesting. Each fall, as we go into the off season, Jed and I sit down and we try and determine which teams will be bidders for players that we're interested in. So, for instance, Bellinger, a first base center fielder, and I give him my assessment based on what I know on the team's financial health, like which teams could afford a contract like the one Bellinger's going to get. And I was able to eliminate like 10 teams this year. Say, there's 10 teams I don't think can afford him. And what Jed brings is, like, here are the teams that have a need either at center or first. And so you try and create this sort of like grid on, of the 30 clubs, how many are likely to be bidding on Bellinger? Either they can afford him or they need him. And, I said to Jed, like, there's 10 teams that really can't spend this year just because of what's happening in the TV market. Their RSNs are either bankrupt, the rights have been returned. When they took those rights to the market, they got a fraction of what they were getting in prior years. And we know all this because of revenue sharing. I see the financials for all 29 other clubs. So if you one day want to know how much do the Reds make in concessions, or the Yankees in parking, or the Dodgers in ticket sales, like, I see all those numbers. And there's a media line in that FIQ called the Financial Information Questionnaire. And you can see the media revenues declining for all clubs, including ours. They're declining because of the cord cutting situation. So I think it really bears watching. There was $1 billion less spent in 24 than there were in 23, and Scott Boras has screamed and moaned about it. But the reality is it's just revenues, at least on the media side, are shrinking, growing on the ticket sales and corporate partnership and concession lines, but media is in decline and probably will be for the next couple of years.
I mean, there's a lot into there, Dustin.
Yeah, there's a ton of things there. I mean, the fact that, I never knew until that interview how closely he worked with the player side of things, the on-field product, talking about, hey, just spitballing, right? The Brewers and the Cardinals are in no position to afford X player that we are interested in. I found that really, really interesting.
Right. And down to the fact that he could tell you what they made in parking or,
Right.
concession sales. And it's just like when we were sitting here and we were wondering, like, what the heck is Jed doing? Why is he waiting on Bellinger? Everybody's going to want him. Yeah. Well, they knew that there was a lot of teams that wanted him. They
knew, right. But they couldn't afford him. Right. Mm-hmm.
And this whole Bally's system and everything that's going on with these marketing rights, as far as the TV rights, that was what drove everything. You want to know who has the best TV deal? The Cubs' upcoming opponents is the Dodgers. They got a huge deal, but those deals ain't happening anymore. And that's going to change.
Those things are a thing of the past. Yep. Yes, they are.
And so Mully and Haugh are sitting there and they ask about, does the fact that there's less media revenue, did that have any impact on getting a pitcher? And here's what Crane had to say.
Based on everything you just told us, based on everything that is reality, is there a connection between the Cubs not being able to or willing to go after a free agent pitcher because of what they're dealing with in the payroll?
Yeah, and this is an old story that I've been, I guess, sharing for 15 years now that the Ricketts family have been here. We run the business at a break-even level, so the family has allowed us to put all the resources we get from every source back into and I would call it the overall player pool, which includes facilities as well as, payroll, scouting, free agency, player development, et cetera. We'll actually have this year, our total baseball spend will be the highest in our team's history. So more than we spent in 2019 and during the great run we had from 15 to 19, when you look at all investments in the baseball operations side, which includes the manager and everyone else. So we're setting a record in terms of how much we're spending on the baseball product. I think we're a whisker below the CBT threshold, the first threshold. So, that probably is something we exceed at the deadline if we're competitive. So I mean, the family has again allowed us to put all of our resources forward. When it came to another player like Montgomery, that was not in the budget, and so that wasn't something we could do. But again, we'll be number one in payroll in our division, and again, a record for us, as a club. And I think, plenty of talent on the field for us to be incredibly competitive this year.
So he brought up earlier the Diamondbacks, but the Diamondbacks had two really good front-end pitchers. Their back end wasn't very good, but they had two very good front-end pitchers, and that's really what you need to go on a deep run. But he's saying that the financials were not there to get a pitcher like Jordan Montgomery, and I was surprised at the candidness of that one.
Right. I mean, I appreciate, again, I want to emphasize, I appreciate the honesty. I will say on the podcast what I said on the air. The only thing, don't say that stuff and then point out, oh, by the way, we're spending more than we ever have. Oh, by the way, we're the top spender in our division. And then casually making sure that we know that this pool of money also goes to cover the price of the manager, which, oh, by the way, is the highest paid manager in baseball.
Right.
So
and
just,
that's
just, oh, by the way, just all those, just, oh, by the ways.
And for me, of course you should be spending more than the Brewers and the Reds and the Pirates and the Cardinals. That doesn't get you off the hook. Like, right.
To tell that was the one, I guess, that rubbed me the wrongest as a fan. Right. And while they are, and again, I don't think Crane's a liar. While they are spending more than they ever have across the board to put that product on the field, I think this is accurate, and you know better than I do as a season ticket holder. They are also the most expensive one individual game experience in Major League Baseball.
Yep, absolutely. And the other thing I would say is that, sometimes in baseball, obviously it's a business, but there's a sport aspect to it. And if you think that you're one pitcher away, if you're a Jordan Montgomery away from really kind of being a real contender, that's something you got to think about. Sometimes you're going to have to go over that luxury tax if you want to win. You're going to have to put the money down if that's what you want to do.
Right. We'll see what they do. Hopefully the Cubs are in a good spot come the trading deadline, and we'll see exactly what this team is going to do.
Well, it was a great interview, and I encourage all our listeners to go on the Odyssey app. Obviously, listen to Mully and Haugh all the time, but if you haven't heard that whole interview specifically, I would definitely go back and give it a listen.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast. Cubs crush the Rockies. It's season 3. It's episode 28. Don't forget to give Crawly and I one of those 5-star reviews when you download this Fly the W podcast. All right, Crawly, we got some injury news, some roster moves to talk about, and we're going to start with some Jameson Taillon information.
Yeah, and with Jameson Taillon right now, you're taking a look. According to Jordan Bastian, he faced hitters in a live batting practice session on April 2nd in Arizona, and he previously threw live BP on March 29th in Arizona, and then logged a bullpen session with the team on March 31st in Texas. So barring any setbacks, the next step for Taillon could be a minor league rehab outing on Sunday with AAA Iowa. So definitely this weekend, something to keep an eye on that, because Javier Assad did great. I hope he's doing good, but hopefully Jameson Taillon, I was hoping he'd have a big bounce back year. I want to see what he's got. So I'm hoping that he can be healthy and take it another level higher than he did last year.
Yeah. If Taillon only missed 2 scheduled starts and then came back and was looking pretty good, I think that would be a W for the Cubs, considering where this thing was looking to be headed.
Right. And, sometimes it's like sometimes you hit on something and it's like getting a player in free agency or something. Like when the Cubs signed Cody Bellinger last year, they didn't know he was going to be that good, the comeback player of the year. I mean, it was possible, but imagine if Jameson Taillon really has a bounce back. I don't think either of us were expecting Jameson Taillon to lead the team in wins or strikeouts or anything like that when we did our prediction episode. What if he comes back and really is something? Then things become interesting.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Also interesting, Crawly. As we're recording this, we have snow showers in Chicago, and the LA Dodgers are coming to town.
Yep, the Dodgers last year finished with a record of 162, good for first place in the NL West in 2023. They clinched a playoff berth for the 11th straight year and captured their 10th National League West title during that span. That is the longest active playoff streak in major North American sports. Unfortunately for the Dodgers last season, they ran into a red-hot Diamondback team. Cub fans can understand. And in the divisional round, they were swept out of the playoffs in a stunning upset. During the regular season, Dustin, the Cubs faced the Dodgers 7 times, with LA winning the season series 4-3. Once again, those genius schedule makers at MLB decided to be smart to play all 7 games in 1 month. So the Cubs took on the Dodgers in LA in mid-April, and then they took 2 or 3 of those games from the Dodgers. I remember Patrick Wisdom had a big game. They almost swept it. Michael Rucker, I want to say, or Fulmer or Rucker, I can't remember which one, blew a save. But then the Dodgers returned the favor a week later, taking 3 out of 4 at Wrigley Field. So when we talk about the offseason, Dustin, there's no doubt about who won.
Yeah, they won. They won. Mm-hmm.
They spent $1.3 billion with a B. That is more than all 29 ML teams combined. Dustin, to me, this is not playoff or bust for the Dodgers. This is win the World Series or bust. That's it.
Agreed. You're absolutely right, Crawly. Very good point by you.
And they got 3 of the top free agents in Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Tyler Glasnow. So you take a look at those additions. They lost J.D. Martinez, Lance Lynn. Would you really say you're losing anything there? And
No.
Shelby Miller. So
another reason why they won the offseason. They got rid of Lance Lynn.
Right. So this team on paper, that's why we play the games, but this is going to be probably one of the best teams you're going to play. And so we do have probables. They're not confirmed. This is always subject to change. In game 1, we got Kyle Hendricks versus Bobby Miller. Kyle's looking for a bounce-back performance after getting pounded by the Rangers in the second game of the season. He went only 3.2 innings, gave up 5 runs on 9 hits, 2 walks, 2 Ks, gave up 2 2-run homers. It could have been worse. He left the game with the bases loaded, but Jose Cuas got out of the jam. But Counsell said Kyle's outings all depend on execution, and he probably was just a little short on execution tonight, and they made him pay with some hard-hit balls, and they got some balls that found some holes. But Kyle's got to execute at a high level, and I thought tonight he didn't execute at a high level. So, Kyle admitted he didn't have his best stuff, so hopefully he does. Be careful with Freddie Freeman. He hits .385 off Kyle in 13 at-bats.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Now, they're going to face a local boy made good, Bobby Miller. Miller was the Dodgers' first-round draft pick from Elk Grove, Illinois. Started 22 games for the Dodgers last year and went 11-4 with the .376 ERA. In his first game this year against the Cardinals, he went 6 innings and gave up 2 hits. He struck out 11 batters. He throws a 4-seamer, a changeup, a curveball, and a slider. He throws heat. His fastball averages 99 miles per hour. So the Cubs did not see Miller. He got called up last year after the Cubs already faced him twice in April. So this is going to be a good test for the Cubs. This is none of these pitchers that they're facing are going to be easy for the Cubs here.
No, this is definitely what we would call a measuring stick.
100%. Game 2 should be Jordan Wicks versus Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Don't forget, it's going to be Pat Hughes sweater day at the ballpark. Jordan pitched the last game of the series against Texas. He lost his control for a little bit. He had to throw a lot of pitches. He went 4 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits, 3 walks and 6 Ks. So if you got 3 walks and 6 Ks, your pitch count's going to get elevated. The Dodgers have not yet faced Jordan Wicks since he was called up after they already played each other. Now, you know that Yoshinobu Yamamoto was the guy that I wanted the Cubs to sign this offseason. He's only 25 years old and signed a 12-year, $325 million deal with the Dodgers. He struggled in his debut against the Padres in Korea. If you remember that, he pitched 1 inning, giving up 5 runs on 4 hits, 1 walk and 1 hit batter. So not the debut he was looking for. But against the Cardinals, he went 5 innings. He gave up no runs on 2 hits with 5 Ks. What you really want to watch here is he's got a fastball, a curveball, and a cutter, but he has a split finger that is just out of this world. And he's another guy that throws really hard. So hopefully keep your fingers crossed. And then game 3, Shota Imanaga versus Gavin Stone. We talked about Shota's amazing start against the Rockies, going 6 innings, giving up no runs on 2 hits with 9 Ks. He also has a great fastball and split finger. But like you said, Dustin, measuring stick, you're not going to be facing the Rockies hitters this time. These are going to be some tough Dodger hitters. So we'll see what happens. And I want to see what happens,
Yeah, a little different team coming to town. This is the top of the West, not the bottom of the West. All right, Crawly, quickly, a little hot and not.
As far as who's hot and who is not for the Cubs, if we're talking about hot, how about Garrett Cooper, 4 for 8 with a double, a triple, a home run, 3 RBIs. You got Ian Happ, who's still rolling, 8 for 19 with 4 RBIs, still looking for that first homer, 4 walks and 2 strikeouts. Christopher Morel is 8 for his last 21. He has a hit in every single game. He has a triple, a double, or 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. So that's the hot. The not for the Cubs, Nico Horner still struggling at 2 for 17, and Yan Gomes 0 for 9. So we were worried about a little bit of regression with Yan. As far as the Dodgers, boy, this is going to be hot here. Mookie Betts, no surprise there, 15 for 30. The guy's hitting 500 with 3 doubles, 1 triple, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. Don't look out for Freddie Freeman and Will Smith. Both are 12 for 28 roughly, but Freeman also has a home run and 7 RBIs. Will Smith has 6 RBIs, but looking for that first home run. You don't have to worry too much about Gavin Lux. He's 5 for 25. And James Outman, their center fielder, is 3 for 25. So those are some guys you don't have to worry too much about.
But of course, Mookie Betts is still having a good year, and he's now playing shortstop for the Dodgers.
He can do everything. Mookie is just one of a kind, man.
All right, prediction time, Crawly. I will go first. Just don't get swept. Win a game. Stay healthy. Stay positive. Don't get swept. I think they find a way to win one of these games. I'm not sure which one, but I think they find a way to win one of these games. Quite possibly, if I have to pick which one, I'm going to say Sunday.
Sunday is what I was going to say. I'm not looking forward to Friday. I'll be at the game Friday and Saturday. I'm not looking forward to Friday. Hopefully Kyle proves me wrong. I think that's, Saturday's another rough matchup. I think Sunday's the best way to go. I think, hopefully that Shohei Ohtani, or I'm sorry, that, when you take a look at Shota Imanaga, he can get it done versus Gavin Stone.
Well, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Email Crawly and I, flythew670gmail.com. And you can watch us, that's right, by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the games, enjoy the weekend, and we'll be back Monday to recap Cubs-Dodgers.
Hey, man, you know what? They bleed blue just like we do, so hopefully the Cubs can come there and surprise the Dodgers. Go Cubs! Hey, guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!